He told his wife the mission was uneventful. Just ice, snow, and silence. But buried in that silence was a woman who wasn't from Earth. And a child who called him father. He didn't cheat. Not in the way you think. But now, his wife knows everything. And she's not angry. She's terrified. Stay with this story. Because what happens when love, guilt, and the unknown all meet in the snow, might just break more than one heart. The snow never stopped falling. Ethan hadn't seen a blue sky in 17 days. The wind howled like a warning, wrapping around the outpost like it wanted to tear it apart plank by plank. He wrapped another thermal layer around his shoulders, stepped outside, and pulled his mask tight. The scanner beeped. Then stopped. Then beeped again. Movement. He followed the signal over a frozen ridge, boots cracking against the ice. At first, he thought it was debris. But as he got closer, the shape became clear, a figure curled around something smaller. Both motionless, half buried in snow. He dropped to his knees. The woman, if that's what she was, had skin like frostbitten stone, pale and smooth with a faint shimmer. Her hair was silver black, matted and stuck to her face. Her eyes fluttered open when he touched her shoulder. Not human. But not monstrous. The child she held had the same skin. Tiny fingers wrapped around a torn piece of fabric. A faint pulse. Ethan didn't think. He just lifted them both, stumbled back to the outpost, and triggered the emergency override on the decontamination chamber. Inside, he stripped off their wet clothing, dried them gently, wrapped them in heated blankets. The woman never spoke. Never resisted. She just looked at him like someone who had expected to die and was confused by the delay. He built a fire in the center of the room. Not standard protocol. Not safe. But it was the only thing that made sense. They huddled near the flames. The child stirred. Coughed. Then curled into the woman's side. Ethan sat across from them, legs folded, watching the fire reflect in their skin. He didn't ask questions. Didn't report them. Didn't even log the breach. He knew what the regulations said: unknown life forms must be quarantined, inspected, reported. But none of that seemed right here. She wasn't a threat. She was a mother. And the way she looked at him, it wasn't gratitude. It was recognition. Like they had both crawled away from something too large to describe. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, silence settled like snow. The woman pointed at herself. Zealry. Then she pointed at the child. No N. Her voice was rough, unused, barely audible. But he understood. He nodded. Ethan. She touched her chest again, softly this time. Then hers. Then his. Then the child's. He didn't know what that meant. But it made something ache in his throat. She fell asleep soon after, arms around No N, face turned to the heat. Ethan sat awake, watching the fire. He felt like both a savior and a traitor. Somewhere, Myra was waiting for his check-in. Waiting to hear about the scan reports, the soil samples, the unremarkable nothing of this frozen world. But tonight, he couldn't bring himself to call. What would he say? That he found a woman who wasn't human and helped her survive? That he built a fire for someone else in the snow? That for the first time since arriving on this planet, he didn't feel alone? He stared at the flames until the walls blurred. Outside, the snow kept falling. And inside, something warm began to settle not in the air, but in his chest. She hadn't asked for help. She hadn't begged. She had simply looked at him. And somehow, that was louder than any cry. Noen began to follow him everywhere. At first, it was just small steps, curious, cautious. Then it became routine. The child would wait near the outpost door in the morning, eyes watching Ethan as he ran diagnostics, checked climate seals, or scanned for tremors. Ethan didn't mind. It felt grounding. He started teaching Noen simple words, light, cold, hand. The boy learned fast. Faster than any child Ethan had met. His pronunciation was off at first, soft, like the words were cloth in his mouth, but within days, he began stringing phrases together. One night, as Ethan adjusted the solar relay, Noen tugged at his sleeve. "Home," the boy said, pointing at Ethan's chest. Ethan froze. "Me." Noen nodded. "You, home." It hit harder than it should have. Not because it was sweet. Because it was true. Later, while Noen slept curled against his mother, Ethan sat alone by the fire. He opened the comms link to Earth. Myra's name blinked on screen. He hovered over it. Then closed the window. He told himself he was tired. That tomorrow would be a better day to talk. But the guilt pressed in like cold against glass. Zealery hadn't spoken much since that first night. But she watched everything. Her eyes followed Ethan, not with suspicion but with something quieter. A kind of knowing. That night, Ethan dreamed of fire and ash. He stood in a forest, one not of earth, where trees pulsed light instead of casting shade. The sky was violet. The ground cracked beneath him. Screams echoed through smoke. A child cried. A mother whispered his name, no, a name. Not his, but one that still ached. He woke sweating. Zealery was beside him. Her hand resting on his forehead. Not touching, connecting. Images still flickered behind his eyes. Her world. Her loss. He didn't know how he knew, but he knew. That wasn't a dream. It was memory. She had given it to him. He rolled away, breathing hard. She didn't follow. She just sat, watching the fire. In the morning, he called Myra. The call rang. He ended it before she answered. Noen climbed into his lap later that day, holding a day-top pad. It glowed with simple words Ethan had been teaching. You, it read. Then, stay. Ethan looked at the boy. He didn't respond. Just held him. He knew he hadn't crossed a line. Not physically. But somewhere, deep in the snow and silence, he had started living a life that Myra wasn't part of. And that might be worse. The drone had been rerouted by accident. It was a secondary unit, tasked with monitoring atmospheric shifts beyond the southern ridge. Ethan hadn't even remembered authorizing it that morning. But when it returned, and the footage uploaded to the main server, someone else saw it first. Jax. He was a junior systems engineer, quiet, procedural, and, above all, loyal to protocol. He flagged the footage immediately. Frame 114. A close-up, Ethan crouched beside a fire. A woman beside him, not human, with pale green skin and braided silver hair. A child nestled in her arms. The three of them caught in a moment too quiet to explain. Jax didn't say anything to Ethan. He just followed orders. Forwarded the anomaly to the central relay. And that's where Myra saw it. Her clearance allowed her access to emergency data streams, anything flagged as biological contamination. She hadn't expected to see her husband. She hadn't expected to see him smiling. Or the woman. Or the child with skin that shimmered and a hand wrapped in Ethan's coat. She stared at the footage until it looped. Then again. Then she requested a direct call. Ethan got the ping mid-afternoon. Incoming, Myra. His stomach dropped. He didn't answer. Instead, he opened the door to the main room. Zealery and Noen were by the fire. Noen was drawing in the ash, humming something low and melodic. Ethan knelt beside them. "We have to move," he said. Zealery tilted her head. "Someone saw." "They know." Her eyes closed briefly. Then opened. No anger. Just resignation. She stood. Gathered her cloak. Lifted Noen into her arms. But the boy squirmed. "No," he said. "Stay." Ethan tried to take him gently. Noen clung tighter to his mother. "Home," he whispered. Then pointed at Ethan. Ethan stepped back. Zealery looked at him. For the first time, something in her expression cracked. A tremble. A fracture of emotion. "He's not ready to lose you," she said. Neither was Ethan. The COMM pinged again. Louder. More insistent. He didn't move. "Answer it," Zealery said. He shook his head. "I can't explain this." "You don't have to." He looked at her. "She already knows." Zealery placed Noen on the ground. The boy ran to Ethan, grabbed his hand. Outside, the wind began to rise. Inside, the silence twisted. The COMM pinged again. This time, Ethan looked at it. "Myra, incoming call." He didn't press accept. He didn't press decline. He just stood there. Between two worlds. Between two truths. And the fire kept burning. The knock was soft. Deliberate. Not angry. Ethan opened the door. Myra stood there, in a parka too large for her, eyes rimmed with red from the wind or something older. Behind her, the sky was turning pale with morning. Her boots crunched the frost, but she didn't step forward. Ethan didn't speak. She looked past him. Zealery stood at the far end of the room, silent, half shadowed by firelight. Noen sat on the floor, drawing shapes into the soot with a broken twig. Myra's eyes found the boy. He looked up at her, curious. Then turned to Ethan. "Did you love her?" Myra asked. The question was ice. Clean. Sharp. Ethan didn't answer. Did she love you? Myra asked again, in a way I forgot how to. Still, silence. No end stood. Walked to Ethan. Took his hand. Zealery watched. Didn't speak. Didn't move. Myra stepped inside. 1 foot. Then another. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't yelling. She just looked around the room like it belonged to someone she used to be. She bent down slowly, until she was eye level with the child. What's your name? No, he said. Do you know who I am? He looked at Ethan, then back at her. You are hers. She blinked. Not from hurt but from recognition. From clarity. That's right, she said. I used to be. The fire cracked. Zealery finally stepped forward. She didn't get close. She didn't offer apology. Just met Myra's eyes. No hostility. No competition. Just understanding. Myra stood. You didn't steal him from me, she said. Zealery tilted her head. I never could. Myra looked back at Ethan. You're holding something you found in the cold, she said. I only wish you had told me you were freezing. Ethan opened his mouth. Nothing came out. She walked past him. I won't take him from you, she said. Then softer, as she reached the door, but I can't be what I was. She left. Ethan sank to the floor. No end curled into his side. And for the first time, Ethan didn't know who the shelter belonged to anymore. Zealery didn't say goodbye. At dawn, she packed what little they had, scraps of fabric, nutrient rations, a worn day top hat with no end's scribbles. She looked at Ethan once, long enough for him to feel it, short enough to make it bearable. Then she placed something on the table. Small. Oval. Soft blue glow. She touched it once. It pulsed in response. For when he asks, she said. So he knows it wasn't just survival. Ethan didn't reach for her. He didn't move. No end hugged him tightly, whispering something in a language Ethan didn't understand, then turned and followed his mother out into the snow. Myra stood outside the outpost, arms crossed, parka zipped to her chin. She didn't look at Zealery. She looked at the boy. Their eyes met. No end waved. Myra nodded. Zealery didn't stop walking. The wind picked up. They disappeared into the white. That night, Ethan sat at the table. The device pulsed softly. He hesitated. Then pressed his thumb to it. No sound played. No image appeared. Only a wave. Heat. Grief. Wonder. Fear. Calm. Loneliness. Understanding. It came like weather, something that passed through him, not over him. He felt her memories. Not visuals. Just shape. Just weight. He saw how she looked at no end when he slept. The moment she first felt warmth again after the escape. The way her chest ached when Ethan didn't look at her. And her hope, the terrifying, fragile hope that he might see her not as a threat or burden, but as real. Ethan cried. Not for losing her, but for being seen. Fully. Quietly. Myra walked in at some point. Sat across from him. She didn't ask what the device was. She didn't touch it. She only reached out. Took his hand. He didn't pull away. Outside, the wind screamed against the shelter. Inside, they just breathed. No promises. No apologies. Just presence. He looked at the device one last time. She didn't speak human, he whispered. But somehow, she spoke me.